Okay, let me bring this back up. Pencils out of the way. Ta-da. All right. Let me change this to 3 and do more than 3 on this one. I think we'll just do 3 on this one. All right. So I'm doing another project here. Project, which means chapter. Project 3, drawing cubic objects. We will work on these, and we have these in the chapter. We'll do a few of these. We won't do all of them. And then we have this. And I believe that will be that. Alright, so let me take this off. So we're going to do project 3. Alright, I'm going to read the chapter first, and then I will do some of the practices. I will be using between a number 2 and a 6B pencil, and you can use a ruler if you like, but I use freehand most of the time if able, and we'll go from there. So, drawing cubic objects. You'll use the same office pencil, and I'm just reading directly from the book so you can see, that you've used in the preceding projects, but now I'd like you to get several drawing pads. They come in various sizes: 9 by 12, 11 by 14, 12 by 18, 14 by 17, and 19 by 24. Don't let the salesman sell you any fancy or expensive paper. It's not necessary. From myself, not from the book, it should be a sketch pad or a sketchbook. So you can sketch in the book every day, which would be great. They may cost less than $10. So then it says, it is not necessary at this stage of your development. Besides, you're going to use reams of it and reams of it in the exercises alone. So get the cheapest. It will be perfectly adequate for your purposes in these beginning projects. Cubic forms in everyday things. Now you'll see why I dwelt so long on bare boxes. I wanted you to see what happens to the cubic form as you turn it. Lower it and raise it. The figures in this object represents only some of the thousands of objects that have the cube as the underlying structure. As a rule, they won't be a perfect equiliteral cubes, but whether they're long, narrow, and thin, or short, wide, and thick, they'll still conform to the cube by having a top, a bottom, and 4 sides. Searching with lines. With this in mind, draw your television set, a box of tissues on, let's see, one of your tables, and your kitchen range, etc. Sit with your pad on your knees and notice the length compared to the width at the top of the plane of these objects. Observe the relations of the sides to each other and also to the width and height of the entire object. As you search for the correct width, height, or depth of a plane, you'll draw many inaccurate lines. Don't erase them. Keep searching with other lines until you feel satisfied that you've got the right ones. Accent your correct lines by bearing down on some of your pencil. Place a fresh sheet of paper over your object and pick out only the correct lines, as I've done with the drawings in this project. If the television set or the range prove too difficult at this stage, then draw a suitcase or a box of matches. When you have gained more confidence, you can return to the more complex subjects. I sincerely wish you'd tackle everything. If your hand is still a bit reluctant to do your bidding, let it lag. It will catch up with your demands. It always does. The training of your eye to observe the weight and to compare correct relationships is more important. For the moment, let your drawing be labored or even crude, as long as it's correct. Fact Faculty will come in time, I assure you. Handling detail. When you're sure the overall proportions of your object are correct, proceed to whatever detail you may have. For example, with a television, judge the distance that a knob might be from the edge. And nowadays, we don't have televisions that have knobs. We have flat screens. So take that in consideration there. Some people may still have old consoles. My son still has one, and it still works. So bear that in mind. Let's see. As well as the knob size and relationship in the width of the plane that it occupies. It's the knob centered on that plane, is it not? How much off center is it? If your object is a table and its detail consists only of legs to be added to its top, now top, how thick are these legs in relation to their height or the width of the side panel? Of your objects in the bookcase and detail consists of books within it. What's the height and width of the book in the center of the shelf? How short and thick is the next one? I must emphasize again that the large planes and the dimensions must be established correctly. You can then subdivide the large shapes into smaller ones, and these in turn should be divided again until you get to the minutest detail. So these are the other objects that we'll be working on, and as you know, some of these things we no longer use, some of these things we do, and that's also including with these types of televisions have changed. Okay. Using the bookcase, and these will be other objects too that we will practice. And in my thing is working more freehand helps you develop to draw more accurately than to use a ruler. I was using the ruler for the perspective part just so you can get the idea of where the horizon and below and above is. Using the bookcase as an example, its overall proportions must be established first. Then the placement of a shelf or shelves should be determined. Next, the books can be delineated in their proper width and height, followed by the detail of the spine of each book. Refining and with tracing paper. Begin by drawing every cubic object in the room about you. When you feel that their basic cubic proportions are correct, then start adding whatever details an objects may have. In figure A through G of this project, there are objects drawn in two stages. In the drawing of the left of each pair of drawings, notice how roughly I indicated the overall shape of the object as I searched for its proper proportions. Once having found these proper proportions, I darken these lines. Never erase. Once you begin to erase, you lose their meanings of comparing correct to incorrect shapes and dimensions. Having established these corrected proportions, I place a fresh sheet of paper, preferably tracing paper, over the first drawing and then clean it up. That is, I transfer only the correct lines to the new sheet of paper. Although you don't have to use a tracing paper, you obviously must use paper that's transparent enough for you to see the drawing beneath it. If some inaccuracy still remains in your second sheet, correct them with new lines. Place another sheet of paper over them and transfer the corrected drawings. In figures A and G of this project, the drawing on the right of each pair is the corrected, refined one. So as you can see, he has so many different lines in this one, and then he has it just one line here. Same thing here. It has so many dark lines and everything. He didn't erase, but then he put the correct proportions here, and the same thing here to here. Now you can either do it the way he says, or you don't have to transfer it to another piece of paper, but you can use your eraser nowadays um, to take off these excess lines, and then you'll have this. And then with the rubber eraser, you can just roll it over the your lead, your graphite pencil, and it will pick up a lot of those dark lines plus the lighter lines, and then you can just define your permanent drawing, which helps. So I'm going to go over some of these drawings. If anybody has any questions, please ask. But I will be working with what's in the book, more or less. If you have questions on something that you're working on, or if you're going to work with me on this, that's great. I will answer whatever I can. Let me go back and see what I have here. Oh, wait, that one's not. Let's do this one. Oh, I can't do that one. That one's the more advanced one. I have a notebook that I made to work on these projects. So we're going to go by my notebook. Okay, so the last chapter we worked on these things here. There. So now we're going to work on some of these. Okay, so I'm going to set this up where I can see it. I'll work with the large piece of paper here. Actually, I could work with the smaller ones. Do I have enough? The smaller ones were these here that I did in Project 1 and 2. And this is what we worked with here. And I went over these. And then the lines, drawing the lines. And then I still have some sheets left. We can work with those. Alright, so let's start with this set here. That there, just to hold it. I'm going to work with my number 6B pencil. It says here for sketching. Usually I don't use it, but in order for everyone to see what I'm doing, I need to use that. So let me get a little bit closer here. So you guys can see. The first subject would be the television. Nowadays we have flat screens, so Let's work on a flat screen. So I am going to make a line here. Okay, bring it down. And our flat screens nowadays are, I will not see the top of it, just so, and I won't see the bottom of it. So that means that has to curve up. And then we're going to bring this down, not use the wrist, and line down there. And then we're going to bring this in. Okay, and then usually it has a frame. Like so, right? Let me turn this a little bit so my hand will. And same thing, I'm not bending my wrist, I'm using my whole hand up to my elbow to move it around. And then it has a small lip here. This side I won't see, but this side I will. So we're going to bring that over. This side too. And then we're going to bring this down. Okay, so that's part of our flat screen. And then in the back, it has that stand, or however the stand is. On mine, it kind of goes down like so, and then it comes around, and then we have another piece that comes around this way. Now again, you see this side, not the back side over here. So we're going to bring this around like so. Excuse me. Alright, so that's the flat screen. For our table, we want to be able to see the top side. So we're going to go like this. We're going to make it to where it's the same, right? Then we only see these sides here for the lip. So we're going to bring that across. Bring this across. Then there's another lip down below. So we're going to put that a little bit closer so you can actually see the lip, but you won't see it on this side because it's directly right there. So we're going to make that lip, and we're going to go up. Same thing here. Bring it across. Then we have the legs. Now the legs on this one, you're going to see it come straight down, right? This part you won't see it. So we're just going to bring another line down. And again, you want it the same width as this one. Same thing with this guy. Bring it down. And it needs to be the same width, or not width, but height as that one. Now remember the angles here. If you want, you could do an imaginary line. So this one should probably be around right there. So this is where I am going to use my rubber eraser to take that off. Okay. Then we have our table where it goes this way, like so. And then this one comes forward and that way. Right? So now we're going to bring this all the way up. Bring this one all the way up. Same thing over here. Bring that down. Bring that down. Same thing here. This one goes up this way, and then it goes up this way. Now, the back one here, you see it's going to be right here. So we could bring a small, tiny piece right there, because remember, this right here has to be the same distance. And there we go. There's your table. And now we're going to do a box of tissues. I'll flip that over, and we're going to do a box of tissues. So I'm going to bring that over, bring that down. Remember how we did the box in the first chapter? Right? Now we need to bring this line the same as that one, and then we're going to bring it up here. But this back one we're going to do light. We're not going to do dark. Then we have to do the cutout in the box. Okay. Then we need a tissue, so we're going to fake do a tissues of somewhat coming up through here. Okay. Now to make it look more realistic, we are going to erase these lines where you can't see the background lines. And then we'll make it more defined, like they were saying, to make it more defined. And I missed one here. I'll lighten that up. And there's your box of tissues. Alright. The next one, let's do, hold on a second, this isn't going to stay. Come on, straighten out for me. The next one, we'll do an eraser, and I can actually do it on this one. So we're going to do an eraser, right? Bring this down, go forward, that goes forward, that goes forward, and this comes around. And there's your eraser. Or you can just make it straight. Either one. And then say a notepad. We can do that over here also. Just straight line that way. Go up. Straight line. Bring it down. And this one we're just going to make a lip here. Bring this around. And then we're going to bring it out here. And bring it down. And there you go. There's your paper. Amazing how that works, right? I'm not going to do cigarettes, but I will do a pencil. In that book, it was showing a pack of cigarettes. I don't believe that that's should be done, so I'm not going to do that. But we're going to make one of those carpenter pencils. Bring this out like so, right? Then we're going to cut it off right here, and then we want to bring it closer. And there's your pencil, carpenter pencil. It's just that simple. This is kind of wavy, but it should be a straight line. Looks weird. Alright, so the next project would be, let's put that one over. Let's do, say a bookshelf. Let's do a bookshelf. Okay, so we're going to bring this down this way. And then say we're going to see the top of it somewhat, right? Then we're going to bring this down. This line should be the same as that line because it's a box. But now we see all corners here, so we're going to bring a line for the inner panel, like so. Okay, we're going to put legs on it. So now they're at a shape of a cone. Remember the cone we did? Okay, the very, very back one we don't see. Let me put this a little bit closer. The very back we don't see. We're going to put a shelf in here, so we're going to put it straight across. And then this back piece, we're going to bring back there, like so, right? Same thing here. I'm going to bring this down, bring that forward. Make sure there's an imaginary line here, and then we'll put that one here. That brings in the shelf itself. This actually looks uneven. Actually, I think it needs to come down a little bit more. There we go. So that's where they say de-eraser and not de-eraser and so forth. So I'm not going to trace over it. I will just erase what we don't want. Okay. Then we're going to put some books in here. So we're going to imagine that if we were to do a line like so, and then here, and here, so right here would be a book. And then we'll have several books in there, stacked up. So then we're going to erase these lines to where they're no longer there. Now you have those books in there, right? Now we're going to draw some other books in here. Well, they're supposed to be taller books. And then we got a short book, and then we have tall books. And there you go. There's your bookshelf. You can fix these cylinders. There you go. There's your bookshelf. It's partially like one of those old televisions, but it's not. Okay. Next thing that we can do. That one. Let's do a suitcase. So bring this down. Same thing with this. Bring it over. Back one will be kind of light. Now we're going to do a handle here. Handle there. And then we have latches. Latches here. And let's bring this out just a bit. That means this has to be moved. There we go. There's your suitcase. Or briefcase, one or the other. Okay. Any questions? So that would be it for chapter 3, or project 3 as the book calls it. right. So I want to thank everyone for watching. It's 3 o'clock at my end right now. I need to have lunch. I haven't had lunch yet. Um, so I'll be gone for a little bit and I'll be back later. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the hosts, the auto hosts. I will be back soon.